Welcome to Go South Outdoors, and thanks so much for joining us to find your outdoors. This week, we go to Guatemala. Fishing there had been on my bucket list for a long time. Since this was a destination for this year's ManTrip, I was plenty pumped. You may recall ManTrip Expeditions is a group of like-minded guys that they just love to fish, particularly for billfish, though certainly not exclusively. We fished places like Tropic Star, Panama for double-digit numbers of marlin, and Los Sueños, Costa Rica, where we've released as many as 167 sailfish in a single trip. But for years, we've heard tales of the stupid numbers of billfish reportedly released in Guatemala during peak season. For example, one boat there raised 100 sails and released 74 in a single day last year. So we decided to give it a try. And if you've seen our other ManFish episodes, you know you're in for a fun ride. Well, the weather was great, the boats were fine, but the bite, it just really wasn't what we expected. The cooler water caused a twofold problem. The number of fish were far fewer in numbers than typical for that time of year. Plus, they tended to have what the crew called a lazy bite.
Well, we're just going out for the first morning aboard the good ship Affinity. I just left the port. I think Frank gave you some interesting video images. It's actually a coal import facility next to the port. Very different environmental controls that we're accustomed to. Interesting to see it. So we're heading out now. We've got 4 boats, 12 men. Looking forward to our first trip to Guatemala, fishing out of Casamigos.
The fish would come up in the spread and attack the teasers, or perhaps toy with the baits, but just wouldn't eat.
Got a backlash? Guys, you just did that off.
That's just a rookie mistake.
Before I never picked it up.
That's what I said.
I never picked it up.
Yeah.
Well, we just had a massive black marlin bite. Fish came up, took the bait, Harrison grabbed the rod and immediately backlashed it, and unfortunately we had to lose it.
It was clearly a deckhand mistake. When I picked up the rod, it already had a backlash. I did not cause it. This is simply Frank trying to make me look bad because of my superior angling skills.
So you're saying this was not an angler error?
This was definitely not an angler error. That backlash looked like Gross's chest. It was just like...
There's a fish out there lurking behind my bait. I'm in position in case he takes it.
Caught fish? Caught fish. That's stale, isn't it? 825.
So we had a sailfish come into the pattern, and we swapped out. We presented a bait to it, pulled in the teaser, and away we went, and hooked up with a nice sailfish.
just say that the way that Denton displayed manly angling skills was impressive, and I had to go back downstairs and cry just a little bit. It was so overwhelming and emotional to see such angling skills displayed.
It was almost happy hookerish.
It was really tremendous.
Yeah.
So it's just an honor and a pleasure to be able to see a man like that work a rod.
I'd work a rod.
He'd work a rod like nobody's business. Rod skills extraordinaire.
While we raised numerous fish, our boat released a mere 2, with the daily total for the entire ManTrip group being only 9 sails. Not bad, but not what we had hoped for. The winds were forecast to pick up the next day, and we hoped that it would change our luck for day 2. Stay tuned to Gulf South Outdoors. While we had not experienced the number of hookups we had hoped for, the fishing was spotty, with some folks seeing few fish, while others raised double digits. For day 2, last year's Calcutta winner, David Gross, was on our boat. As we headed out of the marina, we were hoping he had brought us some good luck. The boat we were on for day 2 had been skunked the previous day, so the captain elected to go farther offshore, hoping to find prettier water and hungry fish.
Well, the plan today is to catch fish. Yesterday was slow. Water temperature was about 4 or 5 degrees off the typical warm water for this time of the year. So the bite is there, but it's just very slow and not aggressive. So we're going to head out to blue water today, which we didn't do yesterday, see if we have better luck.
Good style here. We've got rod up, reel down. We've got the bent knees. Got the look of determination. This is a full angler, ladies and gentlemen. Full angler.
Determined to repeat his Calcutta victory from the previous year, Gross didn't lack for effort. He did, however, lack any sailfish so far this trip.
I thought we had a sailfish. No.
Meanwhile, on the other boat, David Shoemake and Denton Gibbs were starting to break away from the rest of the pack, each racking up impressive numbers. On day 2, it looks like Gross's luck may have finally run out.
I'm the angler. I'm definitely the one that's got the capabilities and the skill set and all of that just to beat their tail. I've got my sights dead set on that money. And I'm going to take all that cheese because I am a what? Angler! Boom!
Bam! So we had a real good day today. Started off probably about 8:30 with a double, and probably had fish on about every 30 to 45 minutes. So we had a total of 10 sails we caught today, but it was a great day. Had 2 doubles hookups and had 2 break off. So all in all, had a good time.
To all those doubting members of ManTrip 2018 who think that it is not possible that I could repeat, considering that I haven't caught a fish in the last 2 days, I have one more day and one more chance. And how many times has the team come from behind to win in the last 2 minutes? It can happen, boys.
What do you think, John? Having fun. Just anxious to get him in because we've had such a hard time catching fish.
Well, as it turned out, going a lot farther offshore was not such a great strategy. We saw even fewer fish than the previous day and ended up releasing only 1 sail. Well, with the action so slow out on the water, let's take a moment and show you a little bit about Guatemala when we come back. Guatemala has much to see. Over the centuries, earthquakes have accompanied the country's many active volcanoes, producing spectacular ruins in places like Antigua. The old cathedral ruins we found are very impressive. A good friend of mine, Carlos Tavares, moved to Guatemala some 10 years ago. His mission was to run an orphanage for abused children. His prior experience in operating private schools here in the U.S. came in really handy, not just with the orphanages, but in building a school for a small Mayan village where there had never been one before. Single-handedly, Carlos raised the money and organized the construction of a school at Pixaba. But more recently, Carlos and I teamed up to found a for-profit private school in Antigua. Over the past 5 years, Carlos has made this an innovative and very successful school, as you're about to see.
Hi, I'm Carlos Nevares, all the way from Antigua, Guatemala. And this is our school. It's called Colegio Americano Superior. We started the school about 9 years ago. This will be our 10th year. And thanks to God, we've been doing really well. Our objective in the school is obviously educational facility, and where we educate the children here in Guatemala. Our vision is to be able to impact the future of Guatemala. We believe that education is the key to the future, and if you want to impact a city, a town, or a country, you do it by educating the generation now. We have spots where we evaluate the learning of the students, and we evaluate how they're coming along and make the adjustments. And we have all the tools, real modern tools, in order to reach our goals. Like, for example, we have something new this year called a smart classroom, where we have it's an interactive board where it interacts with pads, and the children have the pads and they can interact with the teacher and with each other. It gives us access to the internet, where we can use and show different videos, explain it. Everything is recorded. We put it up on our digital platform. It gives access to all the students through the internet to be able to see the classroom over and again. They can study it, or even the parents can see the class live, or they can see it recorded.
Since arriving in Guatemala, Carlos has done a lot of good things for a lot of folks. While running the orphanage for abused children, he was approached by a pastor from the remote Mayan village of Pixaba, where there had never been a school until Carlos came along. Using only hand tools, they carved out a spot on the side of a mountain and then carried each cinder block and bucket of sand up the mountain to build the school where children now have a chance at an education. Guatemala is a fascinating country to visit. There are over 24 named volcanoes, which are spectacular. But along with volcanoes comes earthquakes. The first recorded one hit Antigua in 1717, after which there have been over 24 as well. Many magnificent cathedrals in Antigua were destroyed, and their ruins may be visited by tourists today. Well, as you just saw for yourself, billfish are not the only reason to visit Guatemala. And speaking of billfish, a prized species that several members of our group have sought is black marlin. On a prior trip to Tropic Star, Panama, I managed to hook up a nice one at around 450 pounds. But sometimes there's beginner's luck, as you'll see in our clip of the week coming right up. When Kelly Rank arrived at Casa Vieja, she had never caught a billfish of any type. So when she hooked up, she had no idea what a special fish she had. Kelly had hooked a black marlin, one that made many of our crew green with envy. But hey, sometimes beginner luck pays off. It sure did for her.
first, I didn't know it was a black marlin. The mate just said it was a big fish, and then the first jump, I realized it was a black marlin, and it was the biggest fish that I'd ever seen. So I knew I had a battle. One of us was going to have to give up. Eventually, I got it close to the boat. It took off again. So then I had to reel it back in, and it took about another 20 minutes to get that back in. But it honestly gave me a fight. At one point, I thought I was going to go over the boat. The mate had to hold the rod for me just for me to reel it in. It was definitely a big fish, and it was fighting, jumping all around the boat. It wasn't going to give up.
This is the Road to the Conference USA Championship, presented by Keesler Federal Credit Union.
Welcome back to Gulf South Outdoors. We're back again with our good friend Tim Bennett, co-owner of the Biloxi Shuckers and owner of Overtime Sports. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in MGM Park, Tim.
Man, it's hard to believe we're back in the baseball season again. It seems like we're just celebrating New Year's, and all of a sudden we're through spring training, and tomorrow the boys are coming back. We're on the road right now and took the series in Montgomery, actually, and we'll be having opening day at MGM Park with our Biloxi Shuckers tomorrow. So, man, another milestone reached, but hard to believe we're back at it again.
Well, things have been pretty busy down at MGM Park. Tell us a little bit more about some of the things that's been going on.
Man, we've had a plethora of events. We've had our high school events. We've had Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College came this year. Mississippi State came. They put on a good show. We had a great crowd for that game. And now we're getting ready for the Nelly concert, April 28th, opening day tomorrow for the Biloxi Shuckers, and of course Conference USA. And this is the largest sporting event ever in the history of sports on the Gulf Coast. So we're looking forward to that. The national television coverage, people coming from all over. USM's doing great again this year. The good thing is that Louisiana Tech is having an outstanding season. UAB is looking good. So we look for those three teams really to be competing for that top spot in the league. USM is ranked nationally now. They've been ranked as high as 13, so they're still playing good baseball. Got a little bit of the season left. We won't see them here until Conference USA tournament, but we're looking for a real competitive tournament, real top-heavy league this year. You've got a lot of teams that are real competitive, so we're looking forward to some good baseball at MGM Park.
Well, that's great, Tim. Well, thanks for the update, and stay tuned. We'll be right back on Gulf South Outdoors. So to recap, after 2 days of fishing, David Shoemake was in the lead with Denton close behind. With only 1 day of fishing remaining, things were looking pretty bleak for David Gross to deliver on his promise to finish in first place again this year. But with a 6-fish deficit, was this even possible?